This is Julie from Graduate Education, just reminding you all that this is one of the required mandatory presentations for everybody, all fellows who are in Hurley sponsored programs. And it's also educational for everybody else. All Hurley employees have to follow this. And it's important for you to know because it's your money. So you are eligible for reimbursement for certain things, but you have to follow the Hurley process and the policies. Your coordinator you to a certain degree, but you have to sign yourself. After this presentation is over, don't forget to take a post quiz. You have 4 weeks to complete that in EGME. If you don't have your EGME login by now, let me know. Those were sent out last week to all the new people. And the quiz should be open and available right now. If you want to open it on your cell phone, if you have it set up, EGME set up on your cell phone or laptop or whatever, you're welcome to follow along and answer the questions as the topics. Our speaker today is Tom Stauchacher. He's the new director of internal audits at Hurley, replacing one of the roles that Shelley Shue has played. Shelley's still around as a kind of a consultant type of person, but today is all Tom. He can tell you a little bit about his background and then also start his presentation. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, I've actually been at Hurley for about a year, just over a year. Mostly coming from the PERS, the payer side, a little bit of the hospital side, but that was a long time. So we'll go ahead and get started. As Julie mentioned, these are same policies, procedures that everybody else has to follow to get reimbursed for their travel policy and employee expenses. So again, if you have any questions, please stop us during the presentation. I do believe this is recorded after, so you can review at any time. Okay. Again, as we talked about, this is something that everyone has to follow within Hurley. It is the corporate travel policy, so it is available on the intranet. But this is establishing the rules and the guidelines on how you get reimbursed for travel and expenses. Moving to the next slide. So whenever you're purchasing, actually the same applies to the PGY expenses. So not only travel, but your PGY expenses, I think you guys, it's on a year basis or 3-year basis, depending on the situation and the level. But it is handled through the normal process, and you did get reimbursed if you have your ACH set up through HR. And if you have any questions, again, talk to Julie or program coordinators. Been dealing with them a lot, so they are very helpful. Okay. Most of the steps, I'm going to say all, but there are some exclusions where we do have manual processes, but everything is built into Oracle. So we've I think in Oracle since January 1st to 2024. So we've been working with this process. Things are smooth and everything's built into Oracle. Just a couple resources that you could have. These are resources available to anyone. And I'm going to circle it here on the intranet. So if you find this icon on the intranet, the HMCH intranet, you can find these locations here. There will be links into the financial piece along with employee travel. So there are some resources available for you to review, and it shows you how to set up a prior authorization prior to travel along with your actual expense reimbursement. And the way we have it set up within Oracle is it makes the process not quite seamless, but fairly close. And again, as long as you're getting the approvals with your prior auths, you can pull things from your expense report or into your expense report from your prior auths. It makes it really easy doing that. Okay. As I mentioned also again in the employee resource on the intranet, these job aids. So there's a full list of job aids available. to walk you through the process. And again, these are important to make sure you do complete the process the right way. I know you go through conferences and you're pushing out a lot of your own money on your credit cards. You're going to want to get reimbursed as soon as possible, as soon as the completion of those events. As long as you're following that process, you'll get reimbursed fairly quickly. Okay. I think there's probably a little bit of trouble when you don't follow the process and you're looking for reimbursement. I think that's where we see a lot of the complaints. So we try to help you through the process, along with your program coordinators. You have a really good set of program coordinators to really help you through it. Okay. Got that? So just a couple recommendations, and again, you update who can enter expenses. So there are times you delegate that process to give some help with the delegation. So delegate your program coordinator so they can actually enter those expenses. As long as you're giving them all the information they need, and they'll be able to ask for it. And again, make sure it's timely. So once you know with your conferences, you know in advance. Start working with your program coordinators and they can help you through that process quickly. But you'll use them as a delegate in Oracle. Also, if you haven't, make sure you set up for direct deposit. It makes things really easy. It happens, I think it's bi-weekly that you'll get the reimbursement. Okay.
Do they do that in Oracle?
I think you do within Oracle. Again, do the program coordinators know?
Okay.
Yeah, you can either, I know I sign up for Oracle,
All right.
but I don't know what access. I'm assuming they have the same access.
Okay.
I think it's through Oracle.
So
So there is a delegate program coordinator in Oracle.
Yeah, I think it's a one-time.
One-time do it and then-
Everything else they
Hurley.
take care of, yeah.
good, nice. All right.
And I think the same thing with your direct deposit, ACH, you give your routing numbers, bank numbers. Yeah, okay. Account numbers, you should get reimbursed fairly quickly. Okay. So set those two things up, targets in your bank account for direct deposit. Travel policy. Again, this includes virtual conferences, even though you may not be traveling, but follow the health requirements for your specific program. Again, complete the travel authorization. So this is your prior approval. Make sure that you know and are educating or informing of upcoming travel. This is in Oracle. So there's a couple different templates you're going to select. So the first template you select is the prior authorization. Once you get that approved and you get your completed travel, you'll use the expense report. Okay, so two different templates to use in that. Estimate in your prior auth all expenses. Okay. If you're going to be, if it's less than 100 miles, again, you won't say no more than likely, but travel reimbursement for the actual mileage, and then overnight stays, etc. Okay. You'll submit your authorization electronically in Oracle. And then again, once you complete all the travel for your conferences or any of your expenses, please save the receipts. So the receipts for the hotel, the Foley, the hotel, any of those expenses, along with car reimbursement, however you're doing that, or if it's mileage. Okay. So once you have all the receipts, and again, working with your program coordinator if you have any questions, but we also want the payment for that conference. A lot of conferences come in to say, you know, my conference was $895. Well, that's great. Went to that conference. It was a 3-day conference. They also need, including that expense reimbursement, is the actual credit card receipt that you paid $895 for that conference. That's where you start to lose a lot of the expense reimbursement issue. And again, reimbursed versus via direct deposit. All right, simple, right? All travel documentation is a lot electronic, so we'll submit your prior auths electronically. with the expense estimates, route it to your supervisors, VP for approvals. So those are the things we're going to be looking for when you do your travel. Okay. If you need any help, but again, if you complete the prior auths, you're creating your expense report. It makes it real easy where you are now entering your hotel information. If you'll ask for a receipt, you have one time photocopy, any kind of scanned copy PDF with the receipt. Okay. It will automatically route the approvals for you. So once you submit and actually click submit in order, it'll go to body approval. Okay. And it'll get through us once all those routes and approvals are completed. We can't edit any of your expenses or expense reports. So just to notify you that you're going to accept it or deny based on all your documentation. So again, if you have any questions on these policies and procedures, your program coordinators know very well. And again, you can either call us or you can call us. Okay. Again, their authorization is in Oracle. Include all of your expenses that you think you're going to have. It could be airfare, parking, mileage, meals, tolls, could be traveling via car or actually a car rental, hotel luggage, etc. But Uber lifts, that's probably the bigger one. The Uber, the share rides, people don't include those receipts. Okay. And again, you're opting to drive rather than fly. Just again, look at the validation or the mileage. Again, you're going to enter that information, or if it's really easy, it's going to ask for the mileage. All you can do is actually routing to and from that location. So if it's 150 miles or 300 miles, Oracle will calculate for you. Go ahead.
Just remember, and I'm sorry if you're going to say this on your next slide, but when you're submitting your mileage to be reimbursed, it's your mileage minus your normal commuting distance to Hurley. So if you normally drive 10 miles to Hurley, give your total mileage to your destination minus 10, and then you have to print out your Google Maps, whatever, as your documentation. You have to provide documentation for everything. The other thing was, if you're going to drive instead of fly, like let's say you're going to Chicago, you have to print out get an estimate of the flight cost and the drive cost, and you'll get reimbursed for whichever one is less.
Yeah, we'll talk.
You're going
Those are good.
start with that.
No, sorry, you're good. And again, supervisor VP approval is critical before travel. Okay, before travel. And then follow the steps required for your program. Travel, so this is during. Keep all the receipts. So when in question, keep all the receipts. Meals are not reimbursed. So this is based on again, per diem. Oracle helps you walk you through the process of what you're reimbursed. And again, if it's a 3-day, 4-day duration, you can calculate, what's included. So if something starts late at night, you travel late at night, the day before, Hurley's not going to reimburse you for the breakfast or lunch. It may just include dinner, depending on the time you travel. Okay. So it gives you basically a $40 per rate per day. All right. And it breaks it down by breakfast, $8, lunch, $12, dinner, $20. Only meals not provided, again, part of the hotel stay or the conference. Sometimes conferences provide breakfasts and lunch. Again, Hurley's policy is to only cover the expenses or the meals that you are not covered for. Okay. Meals on travel days determined really, again, going back, depending on what time your departure and travel to arrival times are. I'm going to keep saying it, but include all the receipts. That makes things much easier. And again, the itinerary of what event you attend, that gives us some help as far as duration and making sure things are calculated correctly. maps for the mileage. So again, if you're traveling to and from, for example, Flint to Chicago, just make sure you know and provide that map. You can easily include that into the application, or you can do a separate one from Google Maps or something. Okay. As Julie was talking about earlier, is when you leave from Hurley, that's when we include all the mileage for that travel. If you travel from home, depending on what home location is, your normal commute to work should be excluded from that travel or that mileage. Okay, so that's another one that gets covered a lot and gets denied. Oracle automatically submits the receipts, again, upline for approval. So it will take care of that all for you as long as you hit submit. Okay. Hotel is allowed only for distances greater than 100 miles, unless it meets one of the following exceptions. So this is a key thing. If it starts before 8 a.m. or ends after 9. So again, we'll include the hotel before the stay or before the conference if it starts before 8, and then we'll include the hotel after if it concludes at 9 p.m. Okay, any questions on that? It comes up a lot too. Multi-day conferences. So again, we're trying to do a comparison, the lower of the two, but as long as it's, the 10 to 15%, show that calculation and provide that documentation so we can make sure we make the right determination for that. Okay. If staying overnight to a location within 100 miles, document discussion and reasons for the policy exception. Okay. So get approval prior to that, depending on how you're going to be doing your travel. Just a couple of, again, we're gonna harp on these a few issues, but not including travel authorization documentation. Okay. So make sure you put that prior auth in there and get that approval process. Timeliness. So again, I know you're going to come to your program coordinator and say, please get this in as quickly as you can. Well, we want to make sure, again, as soon as you're done with your travel, get those expenses in, get that documentation in, start it with your program coordinator. That way it's easier through the approval process. They know what's going to be missing, what you're going to need, so they will help you through that process. Okay. But we want to have everything in to the program coordinators within 2 weeks of travel. Okay. If you can't get it, because sometimes there are some exceptions to it, again, the 30 days. If you receive late, we do need an explanation because we have to go through upper management for that. And it's something we don't really want to take to that group, but it may have to. So avoid that with Melanie. Receipts that are missing. Again, probably the biggest common one is the missing receipts. Okay, so this is going to hold up your reimbursement as if you're missing receipts. It's going to get denied, then it could be a few more days before you're getting reimbursed or get the approval process, and then you've missed that 2-week window for the ACH payment, electronic payment. Missing documentation from the conference. So again, you can submit the receipt for the $895 expense from your credit card, but if you don't include anything on the documentation for the conference, we can't relate it to anything. So we don't really know why you paid $895. So please include that. Okay. Authorization for large expenses, airfare, hotel, and forgetting the Uber Lyft, like I mentioned earlier, that share ride is one that's missing a lot. Submitting for conference reimbursement prior to the conference. So again, make sure you get your approval, because if we're looking for expense reimbursement and we don't have that approval process, you're not going to get the reimbursement. We're going to have to go back and go recreate that prior auth approval. You went to the conference in the middle of personal travel. We're only going to cover the expenses necessary for the conference. So make sure you get, prior approval from your supervisor or your VP that if you're going to include personal travel, there's a designation and what we're splitting what's covered and what's not covered. So again, could be a common one, especially during the winter times here in Flint. Everybody wants to get out and get to a warm place. Calculating mileage. So no information on the point of departure return. So most of the travel indications is we don't have a map of how you calculated your 300 miles to and from that whole routing. So that's another issue, is something we don't have to support that documentation for your travel. Okay, so include the map, not excluding the normal commute to and from work. So again, if you're leaving from Hurley, it's covered. If you're leaving from home, you have to deduct your normal commute. Okay, and then yeah, again, traveling from Hurley versus when you leave from home. Okay. Any questions? Just a couple more common travel items. We need no valid receipt or documentation. So the order form, reservations, credit card, there must be a valid receipt included with your expenses. So I think we've all hit that one pretty hard. Meals at actual cost rather than the stipend. So again, we're not going to reimburse the actual meal cost. It's whatever your stipend is going to be. Okay. And actually, Oracle, it doesn't allow you to put in meal expenses. It actually just asks your duration. If you're attending, there's some exceptions to that piece where you can accept out of either dinner for the last meal of the day that you left the conference, or maybe your first meal that you arrived in the afternoon. Okay. And again, requesting meals to be paid that are provided by the hotel or the conference. We're not going to include those. Okay, so just make sure you include on your receipt. And sometimes we'll see copies or photocopies of receipts. You're missing the name. Include as much documentation that you need on there, like the name of the vendor. Make sure you include the date, because again, these are timely basis. Description, so we can kind of see what we're paying for. Amount paid and form of payment. So again, we will reimburse for cash expenses too. Just make sure you keep a receipt.
Do you want me to talk another tab? Okay, cool.
Yeah, do you want to?
Sure. We have to share your screen separately. Just you can leave your name and password.
Think you're thinking that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, go ahead and try it. If not, we might have to add hurley.com. That's good.
Usually
Let me-
works as long as I'm
Let
here.
me go back to the presentation and share the screen. Just share the entire window.
Entire screen.
Yeah, but it won't let me select it. Oh, there we go. Thanks. There you go. Thank you.
For those who are on the phone, can you see my screen? Just making sure we're sharing.
Yeah, we can see the intranet.
Okay. So access to Oracle here. We're going to go ahead and access my Oracle. I hope it lets me. There it is. Okay, so we're gonna click on the, and again, this is just a view of Oracle. Clicking on the expenses. So there's a couple different pieces here you're gonna see. So the expense report is the one you're gonna complete after. There's a authorization piece where we're gonna start requesting the authorization. So again, this is prior to travel. You're gonna put in your estimates for all the costs for your upcoming travel, conference, etc. So you'll make those requests in here. You can type in the purpose, the expense location. So again, if it's Chicago, if it's Pittsburgh, if it's Ann Arbor, Detroit, again, you're going to select that information in here. Okay, start date, end date, and you're going to start to include any estimates like maps or estimates for any kind of travel. Airfare, any of that anticipated, you can now start to fill this out. So you're going to, and I can't do this right here, but request this authorization. So this will, as soon as you do a save and commit, or save and close, or your submit. The submit button is the important one. Go from there. But then it'll create a expense or a template for you to use. So when you create your report, you're going to, again, enter this information and you will be able to look up some of the prior auth materials. So if you had like your airplane travel, all that can now come across from your prior authorization that's been approved, and you can enter it in your expenses. It really becomes a point and click to enter it on your expense report. So much easier if you're doing it that way. There are job aids that are out there for you to walk through this process for prior auths and expense reports. Okay. Anything else I need to show you? Any other questions while we're in Oracle? I think next time I'll create an example for prior auth and expense report. I think that would be helpful for you. But any questions, please talk to your program coordinator or call us. Internal audit will help you through the process. Yeah.
So if we're going for a campus conference, we submit what we expect to be the cost, and then submit the authorization part before we even go, or how do we usually do it? Like that?
Yeah, right before travel, you'll create your prior authorization and go through that process. Yep. So if you have a conference, and again, I've used the $900 conference, you want to get that all approved and that information loaded in there for review and approval, so they know in advance where things are going, where you're going. We're going to go back and look to make sure that prior auth was actually created too. So just from your standpoint, by doing that beforehand and before travel, it just makes everything from a reimbursement standpoint much easier. Okay, especially for you guys. Try to make your jobs easier.
Do whatever your program coordinator tells you to do. So depending on your program, all of you should have delegated your program coordinator in this system. And there's certain pieces that they might do for you, certain pieces you have to do. The most important thing though is to follow the timelines that Tom was telling you about. Make sure you get everything in early. If it's not pre-approved, you're not going to get reimbursed.
All of that is included in our educational fund. It is considered from the 1,000 or the 1,500 that we get, right? It's not a
Yes.
separate fund.
Well, it might, some of it's going to qualify for your own personal bucket of funds for your house staff association contract, but some of them might be separate.
Like how can
Your
we,
program director and program coordinator will say, let's say you got except for oral conference, somewhere pretty prestigious national oral conference, the program might pay for that. So it won't come out of your bucket.
and how much is that? Like,
It depends. We'll go over that at a different time. So
Okay.
that's different. Ask your program coordinator.
yeah.
And Good question.
So no, I mean, the separate.
The reimbursement for the submission for the studies or like abstracts or whatever research comes under the academic fund, right?
Comes out of what?
The academic fund, or it has like a separate fund?
Usually it comes out of your academic fund. There's some exceptions. If you got accepted for a national poster presentation, for example, there's a smaller reimbursement for that. It's not part of your educational bucket. Thank you.
Yeah, any of those questions, working with your program coordinators is probably going to be a critical piece for you. Very helpful. They know the process. They know what we're expecting. And again, I think maybe you're talking about the employee expenses that are not travel or conference related. And we see, expenses coming through for iPads, especially at the end of the year or your end of your year, trying to spend those monies, those educational monies, a little bit different to make sure you get that. You're working with your program coordinator is going to be key. Okay. All right. If I hit stop sharing, go back to the presentation, do you think?
And click on the tab at the top under travel, the orange one. Go over one more tab.
Oh, there it is. What am I displaying now?
We see what you see. So
Okay.
you can hit the mouse to go forward if you wanted to.
That wasn't it, was it? Okay, I think it actually might be.
It's under your planning to share, depending on the questions.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and open it up for question Q&A.
Yes.
Reimbursement mileage rate for that. Oracle, it's in Oracle. So Oracle actually automatically calculates it for you based on the timing. So every year the IRS comes out, we use the IRS rate for reimbursement. I think it's actually 67 cents per mile. But you can look that up with the IRS, what the current reimbursement guidelines are for mileage. You can certainly ask us. Program coordinators probably will call us, but you can certainly ask them and maybe they'll call us. So there's a couple different sources as far as getting that rate. But I don't think we have it actually published on the internet anywhere because it changes too frequently.
Somebody used to send the email out once a year about the new IRS rate. I don't know if they do that anymore. But if they do, check your email mileage rate.
Yep.
That email typically comes out from me.
Question for
This is Shelley.
whether you're
I do send it.
in the room.
Yeah, I do send it to Sheila Cannon.
Gone into Oracle and designated program coordinator as Oracle delegate. Raise your hand whether you're online or in the room. Okay, if you have not yet done that, talk to your program coordinator right away. That's because you're gonna need this for other expenses as well as travel and pre-authorization and all that. Online.
Shelley, I think were you speaking?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Barely. How do I?
Let me see if I can switch the speaker to the correct speaker. Excuse me for one moment.
Second here. It looks like we have a problem with how the sound is coming through. We might have to ask you to, let's see, speaker. Want it to be Crestron. Okay. Now we can.
Go ahead, Shelley.
Let me try this one. If you can try it one more time, Shelley, we should be able to hear you now.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, well, we don't think it's working.
thank you.
All right.
We'll try to fix that. We'll talk to IT, but you're welcome to type comments into the text box, which you probably already did, the chat. Okay. She sends an email to the CEO office the first of the year with the new mileage rate.
Note to self. Perfect. Yep, now it's again embedded in Oracle, so that'll automatically calculate it for you.
Nice.
Any other questions? All right, I think you were saying the quiz is available now, and you have 4 weeks to complete it. Any questions, please let us know. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.